Hi, I'm Angela O'Brien-Kluchuk. I am from Balmoral Hall School in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory in Canada. I am going to be sharing my research about enhancing engagement and collaborative leadership skills using spiderweb discussions today. The reason that I decided to focus on collaborative leadership skills and engagement is because I've been teaching an AP Microeconomics course for a number of years, and one of the things that I've noticed is that maybe in part because it's students' first time experiencing economics in an academic way and working with it that way, they tend to be quite passive in their engagement in class. And I wanted to find a way for them to really take ownership of their learning and lead their learning. Another thing that I noticed during the pandemic and post-pandemic is that students really seem to struggle with finding opportunities to collaborate with one another. It was a challenge for teachers to find ways for students to collaborate authentically during pandemic shutdowns. And there was a bit of a hangover from that when students returned to school in terms of finding ways to collaborate effectively and to really be engaged in their learning in class. So one component of leadership in which girls tend to have an advantage is that of collaboration. And I wanted to look a little bit more and kind of take advantage of this idea of girls being quite strong in the area of collaboration to see what I could kind of do with that in terms of leadership and engagement. We also know that collaboration skills are important for leadership. They're a core component of leadership, and they also can really improve teaching and learning. Collaboration skills have been shown to improve students' performance in academics. And so this seemed like a natural way into focusing on this idea of engagement and collaborative leadership skills and connecting to that idea of leadership for students. As I was reading through the literature around collaboration and leadership, one of the things that I found was that in order for students to really be engaged in a deep way or to be able to collaborate effectively, they needed to be engaged in a deep way, and that it was really difficult to actually learn these skills unless they found a way to be kind of deeply and meaningfully engaged in what they were doing. And so it seems that collaboration and engagement kind of mutually reinforce one another and really are necessary for the other to exist in some ways. So one of the benefits of a girls' school is that every leadership opportunity goes to a girl, and I'm really proud to be at a girls' school where girls have these opportunities for leadership. But when thinking about how to incorporate this idea of collaboration, I started looking at, okay, so what types of collaboration do we often do? And there's certainly group discussions, which are often used as a strategy for structuring in opportunities for collaboration. However, often group discussions end up having a lot of teacher involvement, kind of directing the discussion. There's still quite a significant role that teachers sometimes play in group discussions, and they aren't always meaningfully evaluated to see really how well the discussion went and make sure that those skills are also being built upon. So this led me to find spiderweb discussions. It's been described as kind of a Harkness 2.0 by the founder Alexis Wiggins, and the spiderweb discussions really have four main components. So within spiderweb discussions, students need to sit in a circle facing one another. The teacher needs to sit outside the circle, level with the students, and remain silent throughout. Sufficient time needs to be allotted to debrief the discussion with students afterwards. And the discussion needs to be assigned a group grade that is tracked and visible for students, but doesn't actually get factored into their final marks. These are the four main components that are necessary for a spiderweb discussion that kind of differentiate them from a typical type of group discussion. So with this in mind, this led me to my research question, which is, how can using spiderweb group discussions enhance engagement and collaborative leadership skills in an AP Microeconomics classroom? So some of the collaborative leadership skills that I was looking at, and there are many different ways of defining that. The way that I defined it through this research was the ability to listen actively, include diverse perspectives, practice empathy, manage conflict effectively, and to encourage and take initiative. And those last two seem to be some of the more tricky ones to really reach. So I was really hoping to see if use of the spiderweb discussions could help to enhance that. So this is kind of what the tracking page would look like. As I would sit outside the circle with the students, I would track the discussion and it would form this kind of web, which is part of why it's called a spiderweb discussion. I then would show the web to the students and we would discuss what we saw, what they noticed. We evaluated the discussion based on a rubric that we had co-created together, and at the end we assessed it with a score. So I was looking to see if the spiderweb discussions could improve levels of engagement and help students develop collaborative leadership skills. And the findings that I found suggest that they do seem to be able to help with both of those things. In terms of levels of student engagement, as one student said, every report card I've ever gotten says I need to speak up and participate. In this class, I feel compelled to speak up. So students who struggle to find opportunities to speak, because of the structure of the spiderweb discussions, they felt like there was more of an incentive maybe in some ways, or as she said, she felt more compelled to speak up. And so she found ways to participate in this class that she doesn't necessarily find in other classes. The second theme that I pulled out of interviews with students and their responses to surveys was an increased sense of responsibility for their self and others among the students. As one student said, now I'll actually do the questions beforehand and be more prepared. And I certainly did notice in my experience of the class that for those classes when we had spiderweb discussions, students were more prepared for class because they wanted to have something to offer to the conversation. When there wasn't a discussion planned for that day, because there were some days where we didn't have discussions planned, they tended to be less prepared and they maybe hadn't done all the work they needed to do to really show up ready to dig deeper. Finally, the spiderweb discussions seem to increase students' strategies for including a variety of voices and perspectives in discussions. As one student said, sometimes even when I think I understand something, getting someone else's point of view helps even more. And then it especially helps when I'm really stuck. Another student said, I'm not saying knowledge and understanding is not important, but a good group discussion is we solve our problem together, instead of someone taking me to the correct answer.
Sometimes, even when I think I understand something, getting someone else's point of view helps even more. And then it especially helps when I'm really stuck. And sometimes when I'm really stuck, I find them a little bit difficult because I feel like other people are moving faster and I don't want to hold them back. But usually they're pretty good.
Now, this idea of thinking of themselves as solving the problem together and really working together as a group and valuing each other's opinions seemed to show quite a significant impact of the spiderweb discussions and quite a benefit of going through this structure in class as we were working with quite challenging topics together.
If you have been considering finding a new way to incorporate discussions in your class or encouraging students to find ways to lead their learning and really engage in the class, I strongly encourage you to try spiderweb discussions. I would be happy to discuss with you your ideas and answer any questions you might have about it. My contact information is below here. I also would really like to extend a heartfelt thank you to ICGS and the GARC program for allowing me to engage in this research and to really dive deep into the perspectives of my students and the impact that different strategies have in the classroom. Thanks also to Balmoral Hall School for supporting me and to all of the other people who helped me along the way. It truly takes a group of people. As they say, it takes a village to be able to do this type of research, and I'm so grateful for all the support I have. Thank you.